Welcome to GTC Teaching Tidbits Blackboard Ultra. In this series, each episode, we explore techniques, tips, practices, ideas to expand your knowledge of and your comfort with using Blackboard Ultra. So I'm joined today by Lee McMinn from the Curriculum and Instructional Support Center, CISC for short. Welcome back, Lee.
Thanks, Rachel. It's good to be here.
It's so good to have you and Rebecca tag teaming to do these updates for us. And I think you mentioned there's quite a few for this month.
Yes, there are.
We didn't get a sneak preview last month, so we're going to be really excited to see what all of those are. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Lee, to give us the updates for July 2023.
All right. Thank you very much, Rachel. Let me share here. All right. So our Blackboard updates for July of 2023, we have a good number of those. And this is a list of some of the things I'm going to show you. I got some screenshots for that are focused primarily for instructors. Some big things that we had in original that are now coming back. More and more things are getting done. The first one is partial and negative credit for multiple choice or multiple select questions. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. Tab navigations for assessments. If anybody's been grading assignments or assessments in the last week, you've probably seen some changes. And even though I know the changes are there, when I go there, I'm looking to click in one place and now it's somewhere else. So that'll get you a couple times to get used to that. There's some updates to the exceptions panel. Big thing coming here, the file deletion in course. Now, when you delete a file in the course, it automatically deletes it from the content collection. So you don't have to double delete anymore. And hopefully that's going to save. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Changing course duration, that means changing the start date. Instructors can now do that on their own again, like they could in original. You don't have to call me or someone in CISC to change that date for you, and I'll show you how to do that. Blackboard has added a new label called Formative label that you can choose, if you turn that on, to show that to students. And basically that's just saying you can apply it to any assessment, assignments, or test, quizzes, whatever, just to point out that this is a formative assessment instead of a summative assessment. You know, a formative assessment is basically one that's checking the student's progress, checking did they learn the content, how are they doing so far in that section, whereas summative is like end of unit or end of final exam, you know, where you're just checking their overall knowledge. So you have that ability to designate items as formative assessment items. You have the ability to delete grade schemas now. We also have a complete and incomplete grade schema, which we had in original, but we haven't had in Ultra until this month. And then the last big thing that faculty can do is resizing images and media that you may input on a document or something like that within Blackboard. Used to, you just stuck it in there and it was what it was. You couldn't resize it. Now you have the handles where you can drag and drop those and resize. So let's take a look at some of these. The partial and negative credit, I've just taken a screenshot of an example. This is works the same for multiple choice. This is a multiple answer. As you can see, there's multiple correct answers. But what you can do is, if you turn on the partial and negative credit, it's a slider at the top right below the question. Then you'll see the percentages show up for partial credit, and then you'll also see pop up a checkbox to allow negative overall score. That means if the student chooses the incorrect answer, not only will it mark it wrong, but it will deduct points from their overall score, not just mark it wrong. So, for example, in the percentages here that are positive numbers, that's the percent that they get for that particular correct answer. The negative percent means this question is worth 10 points. So if they chose black as their answer, it would deduct 5 points because that's 50% of the 10 points. So not only would they not get it right, but they're really losing 5 points off of the total score. So that's what that does. We have the tab navigations for assessments. Many or all of us are used to seeing when we go into edit an assessment or grade the assessment, we look at it here. We're used to seeing in the top right-hand corner, right under visible to students, go back over to the content if you want to edit it, or go to see the submissions. Well, now that's all right here in the top navigation bar. I'm looking at this test. I'm looking at where you would edit it, but if I wanted to see submissions, I would click right here on the submissions. I can see that one student has submitted. If I want to see the student activity, this gives a progression bar and it shows you how much time a student spent on the test and gives you a little breakdown there. That's right there now. And then there's question analysis. So you don't have to go to all the different places to click on the more options button anymore. They're all right here. So that's can make things a lot quicker. We just have to get used to it being in the nav bar now instead of at one of the top corners. Exceptions to the update panel. Basically what that is here is everything on this screen. This is if you do an exception for a student, everything used to be was assessment due date and below. What they've added is what you see here in the red box is they're now showing the course, they're showing the name of the assessment you're giving the exception on, and the name of the student that you happen to select. Generally, when we did that, you knew which student you're working on, which test you're on, but let's say you're in the middle of doing this and you got a phone call that you had to answer, or someone stopped by your office and you left this exception screen up, but you couldn't really see, which quiz or test or which student was I working on. So now you can at least see that right away. So it gives you a little bit more quick read information. File deletion, I've already mentioned this at the very beginning. Here's the great thing about this. If you have a file in your course, you delete it out of your course, it now deletes it from the content collection. If that file is shared to other courses, it does remove it from your course, and the way the Blackboard storage works, it's not going to show in your course's content collection anymore, but it will still be in the other courses that had that shared to. Here's the drawback, if there's any drawback. It doesn't remove all those extra unused files that you currently have in your course. So if it's not linked in the course and they're sitting in your content collection, you've still got to go in and remove that information. And I encourage everyone to do that. Let's practice good file management. When you get a course, go in the content collection and check it for the files and make sure you don't have any extra stuff in there that you're not using. Manage course duration. This is I'm following Rebecca Rolfe's practice, which she showed me how to create these little GIFs. But what you can do now, instructors, is you can change the start date in the course in Blackboard. How do you do that? You'll see now when you go into your course at the top right-hand corner, when you're on the main content page, you'll see course settings at the top right corner. You'll click on that. Inside of course settings, you'll see two options, one for course duration, one for roster visibility, right? When you click on course duration, you'll see the start dates here. You can click the little pencil edit button to edit that. You would then click the pencil to edit the start date, and then you would apply that. And you can see it will update the start date. Now, if you do edit the end date, that will be overwritten by our colleague updates. The next time the update comes over from colleague, remember, we do not allow you to change the end date and time. That can't be done. That's set at the system level, so we don't allow that to change. It may temporarily change right now, but when the update from colleague comes through, it's going to set it back to what it was. But like I said, you can change the start date. Next thing here is you can now delete grading schemas. So if you have more than one grading schema in your course, or maybe something got copied over from a master, or maybe you have a duplicate grading schema, you can now delete those. And you just simply go into the schema, you select the one you want to delete, click the more options by the title and choose delete. It's going to ask you confirmation and it gets deleted. We also have complete and incomplete gradings. This is done in the settings of the assignment or the test, if you will. You would simply scroll down to just above where you can set the number of attempts and that sort of stuff. You'll see grade using. Most of them are used to seeing points. So many of us switch to percentage. Now you're going to see the complete incomplete option, and you would just check that. What's going to happen is when the student actually completes that assignment or test, they will get a green check mark in the little grade column or the little peel box, if you will. If they don't do it after the due date, it will just be a little dash. Actually, that dash or zero will change to an X after the due date. So that's basically how that's going to work. Resizing media. This is an example from a test question. I stuck this image in. Remember, when you're doing a test question, you want to stick an image in. The quick way is to use the attach file button, the paper clip. But when you do stick the image in, you can click on the image and you will see the handles that I circled in red here that you could drag to make the image larger or smaller, right? So that's very helpful. The formative label, this is where it will be. This also shows up in the settings area for the assignment or the test. Right above the grading and submissions area, you'll see this new checkbox for formative tools. If you check the first box to show formative assessment or to display this as a formative assessment, then you can choose, do you want to show this to the student? All right. If it shows to the student, when the student goes to the gradebook or you go to the gradebook, either way, you'll see at the end of the title, it'll say formative if you've checked this off. If you decide to display this to the students, they will see that formative at the end of the title as well. So you may need to explain that to your students. If you display this to the students, what does that mean? All right. Now for students, this is something new for what students are going to see. And this has to do with the start, continue, and view assessments. And these are two different screenshots. So in this course, this student is looking at quiz 1. You can see that the student has 6 attempts. What they're going to see now, it used to be, it just said start attempt at the bottom. Now you're going to see start attempt with the number of the attempt that they're getting ready to start. If they leave the attempt without submitting it and they come back later, now, if the timer's running, it's going to time out on if they don't come back quick enough. But let's say they got dropped out and they, by an internet connection fluctuating, and they come right back to jump back into that quiz. Instead of seeing the start attempt, it's going to remember where they were, and it's going to say, hey, do you want to continue the attempt 1 at the bottom? And they would just click on that. If they've already submitted an attempt or not, that will show up here in the attempts left. It'll show, for this case, if I've already done 1, it would show 5 attempts left. And then I could click on the one that I'd already submitted to view that if I needed to. After the due date passes, when they come back on it, this button at the bottom will just say view submissions, because they can't submit anymore after the due date if you've turned that on. So it makes it a little bit more clear to the student what they're doing. And then something else that the students see, this goes along with progress tracking. Now, this only applies to learning modules, not folders, but to learning modules. But if a student goes in and starts on a learning module, you can, and there's, like I said, in this case, in lesson 1, there's 7 items in there. I can quickly see as a student that I've already done 2 of 7. So I've already started this learning module. If I've completed or viewed everything in that learning module, it will say completed there. just as you see at the bottom, week 1 here, it says not started. That's a quick indicator to me, the student, that I haven't started week 1 yet. So this is a good indicator to the students. They can quickly see where they're at in any particular learning module. And that is the updates that we have for July 2023.
Oh, wow, Lee, those were a lot of great updates. You weren't kidding about
There's a
all
lot.
of the new things. I keep thinking, what will these new updates be like? And every month they continue to be, there's usually 1 or 2 that I'm very excited about anyway.
Right.
So I'm very excited about that Resize Media.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot more stuff coming in August. I don't have a slide of those things, but
yeah,
just for those that want to point out, there's a couple really good things coming in August as well. The grid view in the Gradebook is getting cleaned up. You're not going to have so much text in there that can be confusing. Like if a student hasn't done anything to an assignment or a gradable item, it just says grade now in there. Well, grade now, there's nothing to grade. That's exactly right. Well, that's all going to disappear. If they haven't done anything, it'll just be a slash in there, like a hyphen or whatnot. So that's going to be really good.
Yeah.
They're making some improvements on some of the rubric editing capabilities. You'll be able to put images by the learning module. So instead of seeing that crazy learning module, you'll be able to put in little micro images in. So if you have a learning model, let's say, I don't know, in history, and you're talking about the revolution, you could take a little image of the revolution, US Revolution, and stick in there as kind of a visual cue to what that learning module goes along with. It's just to make things pretty.
Yeah, well, I like the sound of that. I love that little image connector. You're speaking my language there.
Yeah, so
thank you, Blackboard.
Yeah, that's some of the new things that are coming August, and there's lots more as well. August is going to be another big one as well. But come back to the next Teaching Tidbits to see what we're going to have in August.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Lee, for sharing that. And especially thank you for including the updates about what students are going to be seeing. I found that incredibly helpful, just to know some of the additional features that they've added to make the students' learning experience more productive as well. So thank you for sharing those. I was excited to see that and encouraged to see some of that as we move forward. So as Lee said, you got to come back for the August update episode because there's some pretty cool stuff coming. And if you want to continue the conversation with Lee or Rebecca, they kind of tag team here with Blackboard, you are welcome to reach out to them. I've got their emails here on the screen, lee.mcminn@gvltec.edu and rebecca.roth@gvltec.edu. And of course, additional questions, concerns, comments, etc., conversations you might want to have, you can reach out to the CISC team email, cisc@my.gvltec.edu, and a member of their team will connect with you to help you with whatever your request is. And they are really great about responding and just jumping in and helping to find solutions. So I'm always, if I don't know, and a lot of times I don't know, they're my next call, and they're always incredibly helpful and prompt. So you will be in good hands there. Well, that's all we have for this episode, July 2023. And again, we encourage you to join us for the next episode to see all the additional new and exciting things. And we'll see you next time.